Hi, everybody. My name is Robert, and I just turned 70 years old. I have to admit, I'm having a little bit of difficulty embracing that age. I'm having a little bit of difficulty looking back and seeing the generations behind us. I'm having a little bit of difficulty staying in the now and appreciating everything that's going on. And I certainly am having a lot of difficulty navigating through this political climate and the overload of information. So, what do I do? How do I handle that? How do I manage that? What things have I found that work for me? One of the things that I want to say right off the bat is my physical fitness is very important to me. And I make sure that I walk 8 to 10,000 steps a day, with the exception of Sunday. I let my body get a rest. And I go to the gym 3 days a week. I go to Planet Fitness and I use their machines. I lift very light weights because I've had a couple of injuries trying to maintain free weights and the amount of weight that I used to lift. I just can't do that anymore. Another thing that it's important to me is my spiritual well-being, which includes meditation and prayer. And I have to say that, for me, meditation and prayer wasn't something I learned in church. It wasn't something that was taught to me. I had to seek it out on my own. And I found a school, the Inner Journey School, which really gave me the basics of meditation and prayer that don't have any religious components to it. And it's made all the difference in the world for me. Just find it very healing. Another thing that I think about often is community and geographic location. Do I have a community available to me? A very difficult thing for me right now is dealing with the political climate and the overload of information. So, with all that being said, I wanted to introduce my friend who has quite the story, and I've known this person for quite a while. And I would like to introduce someone I've known for quite a while, Jeffrey. And Jeffrey and I had an instant connection as friends the day that we met. So, Jeffrey, if you would introduce yourself and tell us, about your background. Are you retired? Are you working? Tell us what's going on with you.
Well, uh, that opens it wide up, but succinctly, and I'll try to be succinct and not birdwalk because I have a tendency to do that. I'm 74. Oh, my name's Jeffrey. I'm 74. And a year ago, I made the decision to leave the United States, and I am now living in Cuenca, Ecuador. We call it Cuenca, but the official name is Santa Ana de los Cuatro Rios de Cuenca, which is the four rivers of Cuenca, because there are four main rivers here: the Machangara, the Rio Tomebamba, which the Tomebamba is the river that runs in front of my apartment. So I have a fabulous view. The Yanukai and the Tarqui. I live high in the Andes, um, at about 8,500 feet. So it's very high, and it has taken some time to adapt to it. And the reason I'm here is I have to say it's not solely the political climate in the US. I have always, even as a child, I was interested in other cultures and other countries, and I always wanted to live overseas. Um, I retired 9 years ago, at 65. I was a school teacher. I was in a relationship with my significant other who passed away in April of 22, exactly 1 week after I turned 70. So you talk about the change to the 70, you know, in addition to the ordinary aging issues, which are not insignificant, for me, there was this huge life change. And I decided to I lived still in the Palm Springs area. And my partner and I had a home in Palm Springs, but we also had a home near Seattle, which is where I'm from, which was our summer getaway from the hell of Palm Springs in the summer place. And so I decided to go there. And I got there. It was like you have talked about that your house is paid for. This house is paid for. It was in a community, so there were significant homeowners fees, but it was a comfortable, and I say little, but it was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, which I never used, I just cleaned. And I had a nice yard and garden, which is a passion of mine. But I sat there feeling like I was waiting to die. And I was very uncomfortable with the political climate. And I have to say that I think that was not the deciding factor. As I said, I always wanted to live in another country. But the current climate, I think, pushed me into making the decision. Um, and I guess I need to explain why Ecuador. I've I've done significant traveling, so I've been to a lot of places. But I read an article on Ecuador, and it was intrigued me, so I started doing research. I came last year in April and May of 2025. I was here for a month and did some traveling around the country. I was in Cuenca. I met people here, loved it, absolutely loved it. Went home, sold the house, and I moved back here last year, August 1st of 2025. So I've been here a year
Wow.
and love it. It hasn't been easy. Talking about community and geography, which you talked about in your
And
introduction.
that was my next question was I can just imagine you sitting at home in Washington State, feeling like you were waiting to die. Just your life becomes so slow and so routine daily. Can you talk a little bit about that and then talk about this, the community and not having community or having community?
Well, I left a significant community in the desert. I had some friends in the Northwest because I was from there, but I had been gone for 25 years. I came back. I actually lived across the Sound from Seattle. So it was a ferry ride into the city or drive around, which was a nightmare. But I didn't have the community. I mean, I met people, I socialized. I'm not a huge joiner. Um, uh, and I can I can get into routine, but I didn't feel like I had any passion in the Northwest. I didn't have passion for the community. I didn't have a passion exercising my brain. And so it just, there was no passion looking forward. And I decided, oh, this is ridiculous. I have stuff and it's not fulfilling me. So I pretty much got rid of everything, sold everything, and came here. There's a significant expat community here. There are those who are not going to be part of my community. And most of those are people who come here looking for a cheap America. It's not the US. And I'm grateful for that in many ways. And the other thing is that there's a new language to learn. When I came here, I spoke almost no Spanish. In fact, I would say to someone here ask me, I would say, cuando yo vine aquí, yo no hablo en solo palabra en español. I didn't speak a word of Spanish. And a year later, I would say I'm an early intermediate speaker and I can carry on a conversation. That has been a wonderful exercise for my brain at this point. And I have passion for it. And I meet people and talk to people. It's wonderful to be in a different culture. And I think in the US, people would say, oh, you should stay here and fight for our country. I feel like I fought my whole life. And at 74, I deserve peace. And I found a great deal of it here. There's enough of an expat community that if you just want to speak English and hang out with expats, you can do that. I didn't come thousands of miles and live in another country to hang out with North Americans. I do, and I love some of them, and they're great friends. But I also am making some Ecuadorian friends, um, and loving it. I don't know. Did I answer your question about how I got
Did.
here?
You did. Yes. Yes, and I really want to focus on community and what that does for our spirit as, because I've been going through, I live in a place where I don't have community and I my solution has been different than yours, but you're there now and you're learning the language and your connection to the community.
There is a huge community for expats. There's a significant LGBTQ plus community here with lots of activities. There's also organizations and groups. You can, if you want to take a class on something or talk meditation groups, spiritual groups, non-spiritual groups. If you want to engage, you can do that. And as you do that, you will meet people who become part of your personal group of friends. And I live in an area which I swore I'd never live in. It's in slang called Gringolandia because so many gringos live in this area, but it's a new section of town. In fact, there are probably 8 new high rises going up around me in the neighborhood. And so there's a lot of, and there's people up and down. I walk my dog along the river every day and I stop. Cooper, here's Cooper. Cooper has so many little dog friends that we have to stop, a dozen times. People, and some of them, you say hi to, and some of them you chat with, and some of them you become friends with. But there is, if you wanted, you could have an activity every single day. And I've done weeks where I'm doing that. And then I realize, no, that's too much. That's too much. I like my sitting on my patio with my plants, and uh, I I can buy plants a whole lot more casually than in here than I can in the U.S. because they're 1/10 the price. You can go there and spend $100 and come back with 100 plants. Here in the U.S. you come back with 10. So,
So tell me, so okay, so community check. Tell me about healthcare.
I have to tell you that my personal experience has just blown me away. A block away up the street is a doctor, Belgian woman, younger than me. Well, everybody's younger than me now. So, and speaks perfect English, brilliant, wonderful. And I went to her because I have significant medical issues. Um, and I went to her and said, I'm having side effects. And she said to me about a particular medication that I was on for treating an autoimmune disorder, which was immune suppressant. She said, well, have you talked to your doctor in the US? And I said, yes. And she said, what did they say? Well, they say it works. And she said, have they talked about the cancer risk? And I said, no. And she literally said to me, I would be more than happy to try you on something else because that shit is poison. And you you would never hear a doctor in the US say that to you. Never in a million years. Because they don't want to step on another physician's toes. They don't want to open up themselves up to liability. So you get the truth and bare truth. It can take your breath away, but it's so refreshing. I did have an illness here that was related to an existing condition, or at least the insurance company. So they didn't pay. I spent several days in the hospital and had emergency surgery. I'm not happy about having this bill, but for a week with emergency surgery, it cost me $7,300. In the US, I would have had to declare bankruptcy
Yeah.
because and I had extremely good care. Since then, I'm now become eligible to enroll in the national health care. Some expats say it's great. Some people say, oh, it's terrible, Well, it's like any public health care. You go, it's this giant buildings and hundreds of people, and you have to find out. And for someone who is not fluent in Spanish, it can be a challenge, but you can find people and pay them to go with you. And sometimes I've done that. I don't need to all the time. But when you get to the doctor, you get care. They will talk to you for 2 hours if they need to, and they will explain everything in minutia. And I pay, so it's like Medicare. My fee is about $85 a month for this coverage, and there is no cost. My medications are free, the doctors are free, any treatments are free, the labs are free. For $85 a month, you cannot beat that. And I think most people here sometimes keep private insurance so they can go to a private doctor for, like, if you have a cold or a stomach issue, or but they, in case of something dire, they have it's IESS, because it covers everything. And private insurance doesn't do that. You have all kinds of, even when you've done your waiting period for pre-existing, there's all sorts of exclusions. But I've been very impressed with the medical community here. I can't say enough about how much I enjoy it, and people. I think one thing I need to say about the people here is, most people are very interested in engaging with you, and I have wonderful conversations with the taxi drivers, and most of them will try to speak what little English they have, and they're patient with my terrible Spanish. But if there's someone who is not interested in engaging with you, they just don't engage. They're very polite. In the US, I sometimes think people are just as likely to turn to you and say, shut the hell up. I don't care, It's no one ever treats you like that here.
Yeah.
No.
And what about the cost of food?
Well, it depends on what you eat. I live about 3 blocks from a mercado. A mercado is like a big market area where the vendors rent little stalls. Well, the one is called Feria Libre at Arenal, which is the sand pit. But there are over 2,000 vendors there. It's the largest mercado in Ecuador.
Wow.
And I don't always go there because it's a little overwhelming with that many vendors and that many people. But I will tell you that I am so much healthier here. Uh, I'm having knee issues now. That's part of the aging, but it has slowed me down. But when I got here, I know you've never seen me this thin before,
Yeah.
ever. I've lost
You look great.
64. I'm 64. Well, there's a lot of sagging skin now, but I watched one of your interviews, the gentleman that used to be at Jocelyn Center who had the lift,
Jack.
and Jack. And I keep thinking, well, maybe it's time because it's a fraction of the cost here.
So I have two questions for you. One of them is, so when looking back, do you have any regrets whatsoever about your move, or maybe something you didn't think about that you had to think about once you got there, and what that looks like?
No regrets. I sometimes think about things that I just gave away, and I think with a little bit of sentimentality, but I think that's just acquisitiveness. We're brainwashed to think stuff is going to make us happy.
Yeah.
I feel free. I don't have a car. I never want to have a car again. I can walk about 2 blocks to there. There's a light rail that runs through from one end of town to the other. For me as a senior, and I got a card, it cost me 17 cents to ride the rail.
Wow.
To Yes, and the farthest place I could go by taxi would maybe cost me $5 here. But anyway, no, I really don't regret anything. I miss some things.
I have. That's great. I mean, the food sounds wonderful, and I've been to
When you
Mexico.
come and visit.
Yeah, no, you probably saw on my website, I just bought a travel trailer.
I
Um,
saw,
so
yes. Congratulations.
I've got to get out of this isolation thing. And for me, turning 70 was such a big deal. It took me by surprise. That big number, and then
Mhm.
my aging body and my aging brain,
Uh-huh.
I noticed it even more because I have this conscious awareness of 7D, the number. So my question to you is, if you can, what was the most significant thing that took you by surprise when you entered this decade of 70?
Well, I had already started facing some of the medical stuff. But as I said, a week into 70, my partner died suddenly, which was totally unexpected because he was significantly younger than me. So that was an overriding issue for me. And yes, um, it took my mind to another place, and then I come back to the oh God, and I think about the number because my next birthday I'll be 75, which is halfway to 80, and but the other thing is you start thinking about your mortality as well, and you think, okay, and your decisions come around. Well, if I'm going to have a facelift, am I going to live long enough to make it worth it? And don't you think I should probably take care of my knees first? So walking is a lot more important. But I heard you talk about looking in the mirror, and I still at 74, I will pass the mirror and expect to see 27. And I think, holy shit, who is that old fart?
Yeah, it is something else. It's something
But
else.
I don't know, Robert, though. Don't you feel like until you look in the mirror that not 27, but I still don't have this concept of myself inside of being an old person. I recognize the ills and sarcopenia, the muscle loss, the amount of muscle mass lost uh, is has really accelerated, I think, in the last few years. And I admire you going to the gym, but my knees are so bad now. Walking upstairs just about does me. It's agony. So that's not really a realistic option. And I'm still walking 2 or 3 miles a day, and that's with I'm at the point where I really need knee replacement, both knees, and so I'm pushing myself because I truly believe that at this age, if you sit down too long, you won't get up again. So you
Yeah,
have to as far as you can.
I
But
just love it, Jeff. I remember that you and I we had some disco music playing. We were on your golf cart riding through the golf course in Palm Springs, and everything was right with the world, you know. And then we started getting older, and I think about romantic interest and about, and I think about, oh God, my body, it's such a different body than I had 20 years ago, and I think about
Oh,
those
amen
things.
to that.
So yeah, but anyway, I just adore you. I always have, and you and I've always
Well,
gotten
thank you,
along
Robert.
so well. And I love it. You're a retired school teacher. I'm a retired nurse, and you know, and we worked hard during our lifetime. We worked
Oh yeah.
really hard.
Oh yeah.
And I would like to see an organization, and there probably is one, that advocated for those of us who are in our 70s and that we have more entitlements than what we have now for our health, for any expense that we have. We paid our dues to society, and I feel like there's a lot of us baby boomers, and we're going to need help. A lot of us are going to need help in a few years. So, anyway, Jeff, I just adore you, and it's so good to see you. And